Welcome to Casey Cares, the voice of Kansas City nonprofits. We share the stories of local nonprofits and the individuals who drive them. At Casey Cares, we connect the nonprofit and business sectors to enhance the quality of life of Kansas City for both our residents and our visitors. This Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. I'm Ruth Bombigas. Kids truly are our greatest gift. They bring us hope, laughter, and bright future. But when a child is living with a disability, they may need a little extra support to experience all that life has to offer. That's where Variety Children's Charity of Greater Kansas City, better known as Variety KC, comes in. For more than 90 years, Variety KC has been empowering kids with disabilities by making sure they have what they need to be active, included, and connected. From adaptive bikes and communication devices to therapy access and inclusive playgrounds, Variety KC is all about giving every child the chance to play, learn, and thrive. So how does all this incredible work come to life? Joining us to share more is Marc Harrell. He is Executive Director and Chief Inclusion Officer at Variety KC. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're so excited to have you. It's been a long time since we've had anybody on from Variety KC. And I do want to, of course, talk about mission and what you do. That's the most important. But tell us a little bit about the journey that Variety KC has had in these last several years as an organization.
Sure. Variety's undergone quite a bit of changes, not just in leadership, but also just in our mission and our outreach and the projects that we've been able to accomplish here in Kansas City. So I first learned about Variety, obviously being around for 90 years. It didn't have a huge voice when I first heard of it. It was probably at my, I'm in broadcast, and one of my radio stations used to do a radiothon for Variety. And this was many, many years ago, over a decade, even before our former executive director, Deb, had joined. And so that was the first time that I had learned, was learning that they were doing a lot of van conversions for kids who were in wheelchairs, and they needed to be able to move about the city. And so we were doing van conversions. That was when I first learned. And then after that, they had hired Deb, who was our former executive director for about 15 years. Anyone who met her, she was amazing, a ball of energy, unmatched. And she came in, and I was, she will tell you, I was her first meeting that she came in and sat down with me and wanted to know if I would continue the radiothon and continue promoting. And in order to do so, I felt like there were some challenges with the organization that needed to be solved. And Deb was ready to take on those challenges and help provide a clear path of who we are and where we're going. And I think it was 3 years later, she came back to me, had another meeting. She said, so I did this, and this. So are we ready to move forward now? And she had solved all of my concerns. So we put the radiothon back on the air. As you know, Deb, a couple years later, she invited me to be on the board. A couple years later, I was vice president. A couple years later, I was president. And so it just kind of went from there. And when she told me she wanted to retire, probably about 3 years ago now, I took her out to lunch and I said, so let's talk about your retirement and how do you step down? And she said, I would love for you to take over. And I immediately said, no, thank you, though. That's so sweet. I said, there's no way. And I walked out of that lunch. I called my husband and he said, you're thinking about this, aren't you? And we had so many projects and we still do. And if you know Variety KC, there's so many balls that are in the air and things that are going on. And nonprofits can have a challenge finding that executive director who's going to stay and understand the mission and be able to carry forth all the progress that you've already accomplished. And so I just said, if I can hire a team and I'm not a one-person show like Deb was, and if I can kind of play puppeteer, the Oz behind the curtain and help kind of point and go, I think I can do this. And so that was 3 years ago, and now I'm absolutely loving it.
What an interesting path. That's why I wanted you particularly to share that story. I don't think it's a typical path, but I hope for our audience, it's like, think outside the box when things happen. I mean, I can't imagine what your reaction was having known Deb and having had her on the show. I mean, she's a fireball. She's get her, you just, and it was like, she's going to step away. Oh my gosh, what is Variety KC going to
Yeah.
do? Because she really created that personality, that dynamic that was associated, with the organization. So you said yes. What was it that you finally said, okay, because you have a full-time job, a very important gig, which I think is just amazing that you're juggling all of this. So what was it that made you say, okay, I can do this?
It's the look on the kids' faces when they go across that or swing in that swing for the first time on a new playground, or they're in the zip line and they're just laughing because they got the ability to do something with their family and friends that no one else, that they haven't been able to do in the past. And just thinking about all of those moments felt so good. I'm so blessed, and my broadcast world and I have a lot of times that I'm very proud of the work that I've done. But there was something about this and really changing the lives for someone forever, and changing the landscape of a community forever, that really kind of just hit home, and it made me think after all of these years doing this, that maybe there was a space to be able to do this and provide. And again, I'm a business person, and so to be able to come in and take a look and kind of just streamline processes. There were some easy things that needed to be done in order to kind of catapult us to that next level. But everyone asked me, "Are you the new Deb?" And I'm like, "There is no new Deb. Deb is one of a kind." Like, and she is wonderful. She was one of my mentors of doing this, and she handed over the keys to the castle. And she had built this from literally an organization that was about to go under, and about to have Kansas City close its doors. And she said, "Give me a shot." And here we are, and we're continuing to grow year after year. And we could not do that without the groundwork and the hard work that Deb did.
Well, you're the original Marc. You're not the new Deb. There you go.
Correct.
So when you looked at the organization, and how did you take those first bite-sized pieces, as a new CEO? And I love that you're called the inclusion officer. I think that's wonderful, wonderful branding.
Yeah. First thing was taking a look at what systems we had. We really didn't have much. Having Deb be a one-woman show, she had everything in her mind or in her pieces of paper or Post-it notes or spreadsheets, and it worked for her. But now, passing that on to future generations and future leaders, we had to establish just some software. Establishing a CRM that can really track our donors and be able to provide outreach so that we know when we need to reach out to someone, and we know, who we need to ask and what that history is. Having that, was fantastic. Being able to streamline our applications that come in and take a look at how many are we getting for communication and how many are we getting for mobility. One of the things that I did in that first year was I started our therapy program. We have a new program called My Therapy, and that was, not every person with a disability, and especially children, have a mobility need or have some kind of a communication need. And so I was thinking, what is something else to kind of broaden our reach to people, and how can we ask more people to come be a part of the Variety family? And I would say most people who have some form of a disability are in therapy. And so we as a team kind of decided that that would be a good program to add. So many children will start therapy, but as we know, insurance will only cover 12 or 15 or however many it is in the course of a year. And some of our kids are seeing, anywhere from 3 to 6 therapists in the course of a week. So you can imagine how quickly that goes. And then to continue that care and that progression, it all gets stopped and waited until that new calendar year. And then you start all over again. So, we added that program. And then I wanted to get the word out, and obviously being in broadcast and having a marketing background, we needed to tell people about what we were doing, who we are, and how we're serving this community. And so that was a big thing, was to just really start to get our word, our logo, our colors out through either our projects, marketing. We're doing more and more events. We want things that our families can go to. We want things that our fans can go to. But we want people to see Variety KC, and we want them to think, who's Variety KC and what are they doing?
Well, kudos. We see it. So
Thank
tell us
you.
about your team. So you're not a one guy shop anymore. You've got other folks. So how did you decide what you needed? And everybody who's in nonprofits also wants to be lean and responsible and not have donors go, oh, you got a staff of 50. What do you know?
Yeah.
So how'd you do it?
No, absolutely right. Right off the first of the year, we started with 2 full-time staff members. So I felt like we needed a development director, someone who was going to spend the majority of their time going out and shaking the trees and trying to get as many donors and sponsors coming over to the mission and believing in that. And so we hired Abby Martin, who's our chief development officer. And then I really wanted a liaison who was going to be the voice for all of our families. And so we hired a community liaison officer, Allie O'Grady. She is a Variety mom, and she had come to us a few years before that. But she is really kind of our first person of entry for any family that's coming. Whether it's that application, she's going to reach out right as soon as she receives that application. Any questions or anything about the events that we do. We started doing a wonderful sweetheart dance once a year in Feb. We heard from families that so often kids aren't able to go to prom or go to sweetheart or go to homecoming dances. And we thought, let's have a family dance where people can come. We had over 250 in that first year, which tells me that, we have families that want more opportunities to get out and about and do things just like any typical kid or typical family. And Allie is really that proponent who goes and finds those families and keeps them in the loop. Or if there's a project that we need to take on and help, she will be the person who gets that feedback, and then we discuss how we move forward. So it started with the 3 of us, and then we moved on to add, after a year, another full-time member, Joanna Long. And Joanna is the project manager who helps manage all of the dozens of projects that we have going on at any given moment, whether it's, establishing a new sensory room, installing a universal changing table, or working with the stadiums to, overhaul any of their accessibility needs.
You guys are very, very busy. I don't know how Deb did it. That's why she retired. She was worn out. No.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It went around the clock. And you have families that reach out at all hours. You have families who are scared. You have people who are used to being told no. And, they need someone who's going to listen, and they're going to say yes. And they're going to say, I hear you. And that's not right. And let's go fix it. And, that's around the clock. That's not 9 to 5. And so it's great that our team, I try to establish boundaries with my whole team. I want them to have work-life balance. I always say, if it's a real emergency, dial 911. But, outside of that, try to take time for your family and take time for your life. But, I notice on my phone and I notice on emails that all of the people on the staff, they just love what they do. And they work around the clock to make sure that Kansas City is better with Variety KC in it.
Working with all of this, so it's an application process to become part of the family. How long is that? I mean, what kind of hoops do folks have to go through to be able to come in and get help from you?
Sure. So the first step is to go to the website and to apply for an application. We've got 3 different programs: mobility or medical. So that would be anything that could be a bike, a trike, a mobility device, a sports wheelchair, stroller, anything that will help a child move around. Communication. So we have our communication devices that someone can do, so we can give the gift of a child's voice to that person. And then the therapy program that I already touched on. So they apply. In that application, we are providing the equipment or the means once insurance says no. So they do have to have an insurance denial letter.
Okay.
And then we ask for quite a bit of other things, from a letter from a doctor. This is all prescribed. We need a doctor to say, this is the exact piece of equipment that's modified and specialized this way for head support, back support, trunk support, whatever that support is. We want a doctor to do that. We don't want the family or us making guesses or doing anything like that.
Okay.
So there are some needs that they have to go and do for that application. But I mean, relatively, I've applied to a lot of grants, and I think ours is pretty straightforward and pretty easy. As far as approval, I would say once they submit that, they usually hear from someone saying that we've received that within 48 hours. And we can approve as quickly as within a week, typically.
Wow.
We approve up to a certain amount. If it's more than that amount, it does have to go to a board vote. Our board votes monthly. So, at worst case scenario, it could be 30 to 45 days before someone gets an approval. As far as receiving the equipment, that completely depends on what type of equipment. Sometimes, like a communication device, we can get it in their hands within a couple weeks. Sports wheelchairs can take 8 to 10 months to actually design and make and get sent out. And so we keep the family informed when it's going to come. And then afterwards, we do a big gift celebration. We like to take it out and either go to one of our parks or go to a family's house or do something and take video and our Mr. Heart and just make a big splash about it. Give the kids one of our Variety KC teddy bears, our book series, and just get to meet the family and let them know that, they're part of the Variety family now.
That's amazing. You mentioned playgrounds. I wanted you to share a little bit about the playgrounds because they seem to be popping up everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, I think it's like over 15 playgrounds throughout Kansas City. And so, what started is, especially with the mobility equipment, we felt like we gave kids the gift of being able to move around. We gave them their voice. And then we looked around in Kansas City and just did not feel like there were enough opportunities to have kids go and participate and enjoy and have there be accessible places. So we started with outdoors and we started with our playgrounds. You'll see them all throughout Kansas City. We're not done with playgrounds. We've just moved on to some bigger projects that are going on. But, that playground in the new airport terminal, that's a Variety KC playground inside there. So a lot of people's first reaction when they land in Kansas City is who is Variety KC? And they see that we are a community who vows to be accessible and inclusive to all. And so we love the airport facility that we have. But, we're now doing a huge project that will be almost $1 million with the city of Gladstone out at Flora Park. We're getting ready to probably break ground out in Riverside for the first accessible and inclusive park, not only in Kansas City, but in the Midwest. It will be 6 acres, has a full walking and rolling trail that 2 wheelchairs can go side by side all the way around, has 2 playgrounds inside, sensory garden, music garden, water features. It has picnic shelters. The picnic tables have accessible seating so that wheelchairs can roll right up to the table. Has 4 universal restrooms so that no longer a child needs to be changed on a dirty floor or out in the car. It's going to be state of the art, and if not one of the biggest in the country, definitely the biggest in the Midwest.
And when will this open?
We're hoping probably early 2026. Equipment's ordered. As soon as it gets delivered, we'll break ground and start going. The goal was for World Cup. We'll see.
Hey, you got to have goals, right?
Yes.
You got to have goals. We're talking with Marc Harrell. He is Chief Inclusion Officer and he's Executive Director of Variety KC. Money. Let's talk money. I mean, equipment like this is often expensive, purchase of land. So tell us a little bit about your approach and how you raise the funds. Where do they come from for you?
Yeah. So many of our generous donors come from corporations. We have a lot of fantastic corporations that have come into the mission and give, annually 6 digits to Variety KC. But they really believe in what we're doing and where we're going, and that we are doing something that is right and for the right reasons, and not just because it's expected or people think that you should. So we're very blessed for that. We also have a individual donor program called Variety Heroes. So for as little as like $16 a month, someone can be a variety hero. They get a Charlie Hustle T-shirt. And again, they get welcomed into the family. We come up with a new T-shirt every single year. So we encourage people to collect those. But that's how we're trying to get individual people to come to the mission. And then one of the many programs that we do. So we have a Hy-Vee golf scramble that we do every year, and that has become so popular that we are getting ready to start a second golf program. So for the golfers out there, they can come support by doing that. We have a Heart and Serve pickleball tournament. That's our second annual is coming up in September. So for people who like pickleball, they can come out. Next year, we're going to do a walk, roll, and run. And so that's going to be a 5K where we're going to encourage all of our families and all of our kids who received a bike to come and do a small 1K in their bikes. But then for the runners and athletes out there who want a longer 5K or I don't think we'll go as big as a half marathon yet, but, just something a little longer, they can come out and do that. But, just going on the website and seeing everything that we have, from our book launches, because we do an inclusive book series, to this year we started a variety show. And every year we're going to have a professional acting theater program that is going to be accessible and all inclusive. That will be on the beautiful Kaufman Center of the Performing Arts stage. So for all of the artists and the theater goers, whether that's on stage or off stage, they can get part of that mission. So we try to have as many different events that would hit a wide variety of interests for people who want to get involved with us.
You've been with the organization a long time, board member, board president. Now you're the guy in charge. Is there any one story or something that stood out for you that makes it, keeps you motivated to get up every day and go, yes, I can juggle two jobs, running a nonprofit and working full time?
Sure. I mean, unfortunately, it's the loss of some of the kids that we've had that have really touched my life. Specifically speaking of Olivia Bloomfield, who was a powerhouse in Kansas City and did so much good just because of who she was and what she believed in. Just talking about her, I get the chills all throughout my body. But she was a child with a disability, and she had a sister who was typical, and she didn't understand why her sister got to play on the playground and these wood chips, which are ADA compliant. She couldn't go over in her motorized wheelchair, and she couldn't swing with her sister just like she wanted to. She had the guts and vision at such a young age to go and record herself saying it's not right, sending it to city leaders, sending it to city officials here in Kansas City, and literally changed the laws and helped make so much awareness to ADA, which used to be the gold standard. It's now the bare minimum. And that does not mean that you are actually accessible or inclusive. And, I got to open the Legends baseball. We did a universal restroom out there, a sensory room, and a playground. And I got to open that with Olivia. And then unfortunately, shortly after, I think it was within a year, we lost Olivia. And so, I get up every day because I can, and I still have the blessing to be able to have that opportunity. And so there are so many, unfortunately, kids and adults who can't anymore. And I think carrying that mission and carrying that flag and fighting for all of those people that we've lost along the way does make a difference. And with Olivia specifically, I think we lost her about 3 years ago. She's still making an impact. She's still changing lives. She's still remembered in almost every single thing that we do. We launched a universal restroom, mobile accessible restroom in February. And that was based off of, we had families calling when we won the Super Bowl, and they said, we want to go down to the Super Bowl parade, but we have nowhere to use the restroom. What can you do? I called the city. I said, we need to rent a porta potty that has a changing table inside. My naivete, there's got to be tons of them out there, right? The city, wonderful. They said, do it. let us know how much and where they are, and we'll get one. Well, it has never been created in coast to coast here in Kansas City. And so, I figured out how to get to an architecture firm who got me in touch with an engineering firm. And we built a trailer that is a mobile restroom that has a toilet, a sink, all wheelchair height, that has guardrails. It has a Hoyer lift to get someone on and off of the toilet. It has a changing table, shower, all on hydraulic lifts that goes all the way down to the ground. Beautiful piece, but so much of that came from Olivia, because she was really big on restrooms, and she had taught me so much about the need for these changing tables. And so, I mean, she's still impacting, and she's still deciding what projects we're going to do.
That's amazing. And I know she was a little actress too.
Yes, she was.
She was involved with Spinning
and dancer.
Whose mission is about inclusivity with kids who are facing different challenges. Mm-hmm. What keeps you up at night in leading this organization?
Everything keeps me up at night. There's too much going on.
It's not good.
There's too much going on in my head. But I mean, it's just, how do we get this done quick enough? I mean, that is probably the most thing. I'm learning a lot, and especially on projects, and especially with the building of projects. I'm someone who wants to dream it, do it, get it done, mark it off the list, check that box, and keep going. I mean, some of these projects, I took the chair almost 3 years ago, and we're still working on. And I know they're moving forward, but that's just, I never realized how long some projects take. I never realized how slow some things go. I get why, but I've got kids who want to use these things now. And so that is probably the most thing. I have huge dreams to do even more than we're already doing. And it's, how do we afford this, and how do we continue to go? Because money is not unlimited. Kansas City is very, very generous, and we are very blessed to be in a city that has as many great nonprofits and has as many great funders as we do here. But I'm a big dreamer. I mean, I'm a big go big or go home. Sometimes even my board and my staff is like, are you sure you don't want to start small? And then I'm like, let's all in. Let's go all in. Let's see where we land. And then let's see what we need to do after and how we adjust. And so that's probably it. I mean, there are things that I want done tomorrow, but I don't have the time or money right now for that tomorrow. So those are the things that keep me up.
Besides supporting you financially, which is, of course, very important, how else can the community help you? Do you have opportunity for volunteers? And if so, how do they find out about that? Where do they go?
Yeah, we're always in need of great volunteers for almost every event that we do. Whether it's doing, our golf tournament that we had. I think we had 30 volunteers that were out for there. Our pickleball tournament, we need volunteers. Our variety show, we need volunteers. They can go to our website. They can see all of our events. Allie handles the communication for all of our volunteers. They get added onto a list, and then everything we have coming up, it'll get sent. But, it could be as simple as, coming out and just cheering on the families. We do soccer clinics, and we like to pair up a volunteer with every child, so that families can also enjoy in it, right? I mean, right. These caregivers, sometimes they need a break too, and they need to have fun. Right. So we like to invite them out to our events, knowing that we have enough volunteers who can help entertain and play with the kids, so that parents can get to know each other and find other support systems and be there for each other, instead of just always being that caregiver, when we have events. And so anytime that we're out, we are looking for as many volunteers who want to come. And I mean, it's not hard work. It's playing with kids. So, I mean, who doesn't want to just volunteer their time to play?
It's Variety KC, and it's varietyKC.org. Marc, you're doing fantastic things. We're so glad to see Variety continue and grow and soar. So thank you for taking time to bring us up to speed and let us see the dreams that you're making happen for all these families.
Well, thank you for your kind words. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed this.
Thank you for joining us for KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice We're produced by a nonprofit called Charitable Communications. This Casey Care segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. If you'd like to be a guest or want to find out anything else about Casey Cares, go to our website. It's caseycaresonline.org. And spread the love. You'll find us on Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio and on Instagram at Casey Cares Online. Don't forget, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m., you can catch us on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. Thanks for joining us on Casey Cares.